I see in my practice, one that can silently destroy your prostate health and leave you with years of pain and complications. Mistake number 1. Complete abandonment of self-stimulation. Last month, I sat across from Harold, a 78-year-old retired teacher who looked exhausted and defeated. He'd been dealing with chronic pelvic pain for over a year, frequent urination that was disrupting his sleep, and a constant feeling of pressure in his lower abdomen. When I asked about his sexual health, he looked away and said, "Doctor, I haven't touched myself in 3 years. I figured at my age that was behind me." What Harold didn't understand, and what most men his age don't know, is that completely stopping masturbation after 70 isn't just unnecessary, it's dangerous. Your prostate doesn't retire when you do. It's a living, active gland that produces fluid, and that fluid needs to move. When you stop all sexual activity, including self-stimulation, that fluid stagnates. Think of it like a pond with no fresh water flowing in or out. Eventually, it becomes stagnant, unhealthy, and creates the perfect environment for problems to develop. The same thing happens in your prostate. When seminal fluid sits for weeks or months without being released, it thickens, creates pressure, and can lead to inflammation. This isn't just discomfort we're talking about. Chronic prostate congestion can develop into prostatitis, a painful condition that can be extremely difficult to treat. It can cause burning during urination, pain in your lower back and pelvis, and even sexual dysfunction that extends far beyond just erectile issues. Research has consistently shown that regular ejaculation, even through masturbation, helps flush the prostate and may reduce the risk of prostate cancer. A Harvard study found that men who ejaculated 21 times per month had a significantly lower risk of developing prostate cancer than those who ejaculated less frequently. Once or twice a week, Harold could have maintained his prostate health and avoided months of pain and expensive treatments. But complete abandonment isn't the only mistake. The second, at 73, Richard thought he was making the right choice. His wife had passed 2 years earlier, and he'd quietly decided that chapter of his life was over. No more intimacy, no more self-pleasure, no more of what he called that young man's business. He was being respectful, he told himself, dignified. But what Richard didn't know was that his body was already beginning to break down in ways he couldn't see. 6 months later, he was in my office, confused and frustrated. His sleep was restless, his energy had crashed, and he was waking up 4 times a night to use the bathroom. "Doc," he said, "I feel like I'm falling apart, and I don't understand why." What Richard didn't realize was that his decision to completely abandon self-intimacy wasn't just affecting his mood. It was quietly destroying his health from the inside out. I'm Dr. Michael Harris, a board-certified urologist with over 35 years of experience treating men's health issues. I've spent decades working with older patients, and I've seen the same pattern repeat itself hundreds of times. Men over 70 make critical mistakes when it comes to masturbation, not because they're doing it wrong, but because they're not doing it at all, or they're doing it in ways that actually harm their health. Today, I'm going to walk you through the 4 most dangerous masturbation mistakes that men over 70 make. Mistakes that can lead to prostate problems, sleep disorders, cognitive decline, and even cardiovascular issues. These aren't just minor inconveniences. These are life-altering health consequences that most men never see coming until it's too late. And here's what makes this conversation so important. Every single one of these mistakes is completely preventable. With the right knowledge and approach, you can protect your health, maintain your vitality, and avoid the suffering that thousands of men experience simply because no one ever taught them the truth about sexual health after 70. Before we dive in, if you're a man over 70 who values his health and independence, go ahead and subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell I create content specifically for men who want to age with strength and dignity. And if this topic resonates with you, type 1 in the comments. If you're skeptical, type 0 and let me know what questions you have. This is a conversation every older man deserves to have without shame. Now, prostate is almost as dangerous, and it's something that happens when men do try to maintain sexual activity, but approach it in completely the wrong way. Mistake number 2, aggressive or infrequent stimulation patterns. I remember Thomas, a 74-year-old former construction worker who came to me with a concerning problem. He'd been experiencing pain during and after masturbation, along with decreased sensitivity and difficulty reaching climax. When I asked about his habits, he told me something that immediately explained his problems. "Doc, I figure if I'm going to do it, I might as well make it count. So I go weeks without touching myself. Then when I do, I really go at it hard." I thought that was better than doing it too often. Thomas had fallen into one of the most damaging patterns I see in older men: the feast or famine approach to self-stimulation. He would go 3 or 4 weeks without any sexual activity, then engage in aggressive, prolonged masturbation sessions that left him sore and uncomfortable. This pattern is devastating for several reasons. First, when you go long periods without stimulation, the tissues in your penis and surrounding areas don't get the regular blood flow they need. Then, when you suddenly engage in aggressive stimulation, you're shocking those tissues back to life in the most traumatic way possible. It's like not exercising for a month and then trying to run a marathon. Your body isn't prepared for that sudden, intense demand, and injury becomes almost inevitable. In the case of sexual tissues, this can lead to micro tears, inflammation, and even permanent damage to nerve endings. The aggressive nature of these sessions compounds the problem. Older men often grip too tightly, stroke too vigorously, or continue for too long, thinking they need to compensate for decreased sensitivity. But this approach actually makes sensitivity worse over time. The tissues become irritated and inflamed, leading to a vicious cycle where you need more aggressive stimulation to achieve the same result. Thomas developed what's called traumatic masturbation syndrome, a condition where the penis becomes less responsive to normal touch because it's been conditioned to respond only to aggressive stimulation. This not only made solo activities painful, but also interfered with any potential partnered intimacy. The solution isn't to stop masturbating. It's to develop a gentle, consistent routine. I recommended that Thomas engage in brief, gentle self-stimulation 2 to 3 times per week, using proper lubrication and a light touch. Within a few months, his sensitivity returned, the pain disappeared, and he felt more comfortable and confident. But even men who understand the importance of consistency can fall into the third mistake, one that's particularly dangerous because it seems like such a minor detail. Mistake number 3, ignoring lubrication and proper technique. David was 71 when he first came to see me, complaining of what he called rawness after masturbation. He'd developed small tears in the skin of his penis, along with irritation that would last for days after each session. When I asked about his technique, he looked embarrassed and said, "I just do it the way I always have. I never needed anything special before." This is the third critical mistake, assuming that techniques that worked in your 20s and 30s will still work in your 70s. As we age, our skin becomes thinner, less elastic, and more prone to tearing. The natural lubrication that your body once produced decreases significantly. What used to feel comfortable can now cause real damage. David was masturbating with a dry grip, using the same firm pressure he'd used for decades. Led to serious bacterial infections that required hospitalization. Improvement. The irritation disappeared, and he could engage in self-stimulation without pain or worry about causing damage. But what he didn't expect was how much better he felt overall. More energetic, sleeping better, and with improved mood. This brings us to the fourth and perhaps most overlooked mistake, one that connects directly to your overall health and longevity.